Welcome to the Herd Comic Book Club, your number one stop for spooky reviews of terrifying stories, art, or volumes that us or yourselves choose. Find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Sharpen your facts and get ready to hunt, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your paws together for your hosts, Shane, Bill, and Scott.
Is that as good as Scott? Scott's
better,
good,
mate.
Yeah.
Better.
No, Scott's is the best. That was
Yeah.
awesome. Even lined up with your.
Folks, it is Halloween month, I suppose. This is our horror wave, but also, more importantly, it's episode 1 of volume 3. We are into our 3rd year of the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. Unbelievable. So I'm Phil. I'm your host this evening, and of course, I'm joined by Scott
Hello.
and Shane.
Ahoy, hoy.
Scott changed his wee gesture there. I was going to say, luckily I have another week before I have to get mine developed for next week. So I'm still taking suggestions, by the way, so drop them in the chat if you know any. First of all, for the folks watching live on YouTube, if you've waited 12 hours for us to start this show, thank you for your patience, you weirdos. I did schedule this show incorrectly. Even the big lad makes the odd mistake. It's okay, we're all human. But yeah, we are here, normal time, 9:30, Wednesday, YouTube.
PM.
Joining us.
PM.
Yes, sorry, PM. Yeah. And also, if you
I was
did,
at work. I couldn't join live this morning. I'm sorry.
I was at work too, but I could join live if I really wanted, to be honest with you. If you didn't catch the roundup show, you'll notice that we've done things a little bit differently. We've changed the lineup. So this is my pick. I'm the first pick of the wave, each wave now. So don't be getting confused and getting your Herd's Choice picks ready, because we won't be doing that this week. The spinny wheel will be coming back. That'll be in 2 weeks' time on Shane's pick. So yeah, we'll just change the things up slightly. And that's me first. And I am first up for the horror month with Vampire State Building. This is from 2019. Published by Ablaze Comics, and the writers are Ange, I think, Patrick Renault, and the art by Charlie Adlard, colors by Sebastian Gerard, and letters by Carlos Mangel. I believe I'm probably butchered a lot of those names, but that's who we have. And a few interesting facts actually about this book. Ange is not a person. It's not one person. It's 2. It's a portmanteau. Shane, you would love that. This is a portmanteau. The creators are Anne and Gerard Guerrero, and obviously together, their first names, they make Ange, or Ange, whatever way you want to pronounce it. But yeah, interesting enough as well that this is actually a French comic that's being translated into English by Ablaze. So it did have that kind of European feel, I suppose.
Yes, that makes sense now. I had to have a note down here about some of the words. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that may be the reasons for it, and I've noticed that too. But originally published by Canal BD and Solaire. Again, I'm not French. I barely even speak my own language at times, so I can't pronounce that too right. But yeah, that is what we're reading tonight. And let's see who is in the chat this evening. It's quite busy already.
Mm-hmm.
Liam, the Funky Gibbons, Heidi Ho. Luke Jones is here. How you doing? TB Collects is back. What up, nerds? Driving home from work, but will be listening to the chat. Please stay safe.
Drive safe, buddy.
James Copley is yo in the house. Is that okay?
It was really good, yeah.
Did I sound like I was playing with the kids?
Yeah. How old are you?
This week on Tropolis, I'm assuming James. Dudes, believe it or not, I've actually read tonight's comic. Excellent.
Nice.
No.
We'll get a score from you. Awesome.
Triple G Comics is sent evening all. Martin from Sonics Comics has joined us. Evening all. Lewis Deacon. Howdy, Spooky. We have Kevin Wells saying good evening. And that's all so far. But I'm sure some more will come and go. Okay. folks. That's everyone in the chat. We're all here. Talk about the book that we read for this evening's show. So the Empire State Building is under renovation, where they discover a hidden room or a tomb, depending how you look at it, on the 75th floor. Turns out it's where an ancient cult of cannibals, soon to be vampires, hide their vampire god, which I'm not going to try and pronounce its name because I just can't do it. I've sucked so far on pronunciations tonight. I'm not doing this. So yeah, his followers believe he will awaken and regenerate before taking over the world. When the tomb is disturbed, it alerts the vamps in New York who head to the Empire State, lock everyone inside, and basically feed the people to this god for him to regenerate and come back. So we follow a group who were on the observation deck. When all hell breaks loose, they attempt to make their way down and out alive. We have a bit of blood, we have a bit of death, some family drama, a romance, and in my opinion, a lot of action. And that is the Vampire State Building. And again, judging by my name and Shane's name on here on YouTube, it's Die Hard with vamps.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I have written down. So Die Hard with vampires.
So yeah, that's what we read. That's what we discussed. And who wants to kick us off? Usually I would start with Shane, but I think I might go the other way around just because I'm feeling a bit edgy. Scott, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll start you off. Stop. Decent read.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, I think vampires for me died out as an interesting thing to get into, quite a few years ago in the cinema. It started off with Twilight, and then we had films like Abraham Lincoln versus vampires or something like that, wasn't it? And then lesbian vampire killers and all this kind of stuff. So you had all these vampire themed things, and it's just kind of not. I don't like vampires that much anymore because of the oversaturation of vampires. But I did like the you want to say mythological side of things with how it was today with this book. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah, with that weird vampire god guy with the mouths all over his body, and and the fact that we were getting bits of information now and again about this culture and how it started and a little bit of history. So I did enjoy that. In terms of what happened and what was going on inside the building, I don't know, it just felt a little bit off, and just, I don't want to go as far as saying cheesy, but it's definitely getting there. And that's what I thought.
You seem deflated though. Did you at least have fun with it? Slightly?
The last issue I enjoyed, and the last issue was definitely the best for me. It was first and last. Second two was we're getting information, we're learning about the characters, and that's what usually happens. But I didn't. My enjoyment wasn't as high for the second and third issue.
Did you need a blueprint of the building of them going down so it showed you which way they were going? Would that have helped?
Not the architect.
Mate, I love a blueprint. Yeah, well, they had the expert of the building come in, and we didn't see any sort of blueprints of the building. That would have been at least quite cool. I mean, there was enough white space in this book to put in some blueprints. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Shane. Down a point, though. Yeah.
Shane, you agree with Scott?
No. I thought first of all, it was nice to read a book start to finish that was just complete. All right, there was at the final page is another tomb, but that can be a completely different story. This one finished, and I thought it was nice after all the books we read with big to be continued, or you've got to read volumes 2, 3, 4 through 10 to get the whole story. To just have this in one nice little trade concise. It was like reading a movie script. That's what it was. It was just, this would make a great movie. This wasn't designed to be a Netflix TV show or to be 50 issues. This was one story set in a building, and I really enjoyed it for what it was. Once it got going, the first couple pages, I was a bit like, this isn't how you start a comic book. I know you have to introduce characters, but maybe if you'd have started at the tomb and then worked your way up to the observation deck to tell us who's going to be in danger. I was just like, I was bored at the beginning. I was like, I don't know these characters. I don't care about these characters yet. So you need to get someone's attention straight away in a book, especially a book like this. This is a horror book. You need to start off with something murdery, or, you know, so you have the tomb open, he kills people in that room, then you get the title card, and then it goes to the observation deck, and then you see our victims and our final girl and all that.
Yeah, like you seen the two cleaners or maintenance men go into the, you know, the space, whatever the tomb as we're calling it. But that was a bit later on, like a few pages later on, and they didn't die. It's the hand fell from the ceiling or something like that. So yeah, I agree. If they had have maybe started that way, killed those two men, but maybe he was still quite weak or something, and then obviously have to have the drama and all the famps flock to the building. So yeah, I agree. Overall, though, I mean, we've obviously mentioned Die Hard, and there are a few comments in the chat now too, about John McClane versus vampires and so on. People want to watch Die Hard. I just had a good time with it, that I could almost see past all the kind of, you know, flaws with it as well. Yeah.
All 75 of them, or
75 flaws. Oh yeah.
Hey.
But
and you're all season, folks.
Yeah, I'm ignoring that joke, guys. That won't make the highlight reel anyway, that's for sure.
I'm writing it down.
Some guys have jumped the chat just before I get lost here. So Connie, I'm saying hi, guys. I can't stay because I'm out. Are you out? Are you out? Or out? Have a great show. I will catch up tomorrow. Sean, Panels and Half Pint is here. Evening, peeps. Yeah, there's no one else new, I don't think. But actually, Sean said the name of the comic should indicate how bad the cliche is. I didn't think vampires was such a bad thing. I mean, you mentioned some movies there, Scott. They're all like the last 10 years. What about like the 40 previous years? Like, you know, there's tons of great vampire movies. Like even 30 Days of Night.
Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah, 100%.
I did like the remake of. Oh crap! It's about Vlad the Impaler, isn't it? You know, the original vampire.
Dracula.
Yeah, Dracula. That's the guy.
Is that because the guy's Welsh, the lead actor?
Yeah,
as well?
It's only because he's Welsh. Yeah.
James is agreeing with you, Scott. First and fourth issues were better. Liam is saying, very true. I was hoping it would be one of those so bad it's good scenarios. But
right.
I think it's cheesy too.
I'm assuming Liam was thinking so bad it's bad.
But Kevin says, I thought this book was stupid, but fun.
See, I don't think it was stupid. I think the idea is clever because, you know, the vampires, you don't want an entire city run of vampires because you can't tell that story in 4 issues. So you put them all in one building. That's a really clever idea to compact your story so that the threat is contained to this one building. And if needs be, you know, you can just blow the entire building up and get rid of everyone.
And to be fair, maybe that's where he sounds quite stupid. Idea of the Empire State Building going into flames, then just put it out within like an hour later, and not kind of have the vampires like, you know, get past the line or something like that. But you're right, I agree, because when it came to that point where they were trying to leave the building, I was thinking, like, how can they really stop this? You know, they're vampires. They could easily get out of the city, and then if they get out of the city, like, we don't have one issue left. They're not going to be able to contain this in one issue. So whilst reading that, I was thinking, like, they're not going to get out because they can't, because there's not enough story left to read to can explain how they can capture all the escape and vamps. But yeah,
it's such a clever way to get rid of them. One of my notes is a very clever plan. I was quite impressed because they built it up. They were like, well, no, we'll take the water out of the sprinklers and we'll put knockout gas in there. So they built up that they can use that, and then later on they fill it with gasoline. I'm like, brilliant! What a great idea! And the fact that, you know, the building's full of asbestos, so it's not going to burn down, so they can put it out and the building will survive. I was like, okay, at least you're not then destroying a historical building as well. I thought, great, what a great plan. I was very impressed with the writing on that.
I think they say at some point as well throughout the book that the Empire State Building is not built of metal or steel. So in terms of like the wouldn't melt, it wouldn't crumble in the way it should do when it was in flames. Like
it's got to be stone, isn't it? Stone and cement.
Stone.
Yeah.
But like surely a building that tall should have some sort of steel structure. You know, to hold that concrete in place. You know, so half the wall doesn't fall down one day. You're just walking past it, you're taking a photograph, and then wham, falls down.
Things were built to last back then.
No. Well, I mean that's another thing too, and we'll touch on that more than the writing, because they did obviously mention the people who built the building or at the time were possibly part of the cult, weren't they? And that's how this Dracula, this vampire god, was put up there. But we'll touch on the mythological stuff that Scott referred to more in the writing. Art-wise, folks, I thought it was, aside from the blood and the guts, I thought it was lovely. I mean, I haven't read Charlie Adlard or read about his art before. I know he does The Walking Dead. That's now I've taken off my shelf and it's in my to read pile because I want to read The Walking Dead because he drew it. I think from the second volume onwards. But like that art, I thought was phenomenal. Please tell me you agree on that at least. Come on.
Ish. Very good at the environmental stuff and scenes and buildings and items or whatever. But then faces for me now and again were a bit hit and miss. I think there was one point I think in the last issue where everything's done now and they're in a bit in the future and they're having their happy life, and I swear that I can't remember any of the characters' names. The main character and his girlfriend had exactly the same face. In one of the panels where she's like coming out of the car and he goes to hug her, I'm like, they've got the same face. But apart from that, I agree.
The faces aren't they're not the best in terms of what we've seen, but they're also not the worst.
Yeah.
I just like with the art how he, I don't know how to explain this, but it's just a simple stuff that happens all the time. But like whenever the vampires attack the SWAT team and it was pitch black, and then obviously the flashlight flashes on the wall and like you see the vampires killing the cop type of thing. Like the fact they use those kind of things, like say for the action scenes, I just thought it was quite. It just helped tell the story even better. And
yeah,
I'm definitely a fan of his art. But you're right, the faces aren't the best, but we've had worse. I mean, you remember my management?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. This made me think of my management.
No
way.
Yes, it did. Wash your mouth out, Scott. Come on. So, Mind Management is the ugliest book I've ever read. Come on.
Yeah, but the faces. So, yeah, one thing I did really like about the art, I don't know if it's the art or if it's the colorist or a combination of both, but I love the way that light was reflecting off certain things. Like issue 2, there's a couple of panels there where there's like some police lights in the background, and then that kind of blue and red is kind of glowing off someone's face, and yeah, stuff like that I really like. It's just that little bit of detail. Like I wouldn't have noticed if they didn't color that onto the person's face, but the fact that they have colored it onto the person's face will now probably make me go, this would look weird if it wasn't there. So I really appreciate that, and I do like light when it's when it's colored properly. Yeah, it was really nice.
Shane, what's your thoughts on the art?
This is my first time seeing his art coloured because I'm used to The Walking Dead. So it threw me a bit because I was seeing Rick Grimes' face because like the main guy in this, it's Rick Grimes, the face is Rick's, and then I was seeing him coloured and shaded, and I was seeing it was weird. It took me a little while to get into it, but yeah, the art's lovely. The art does exactly what it needs to do, and the gore and blood is fantastic, and the whole body of teeth when he's like hugging people and just eating them all over. Great. Yeah. Absolutely great.
I was going to ask about this, to be fair. I mean, the teeth aren't there from the start. So I was wondering, is it one of those things every time he claims like a victim, does he develop a new set of gnashers?
I thought they were there from the start. They are.
You may have missed out, yeah. I was thinking something different, but I think so. They just like, reappear every time he kind of kills someone, which would be really stupid in that sense, I suppose.
Yeah, you'd be limited to how many people you can eat, because otherwise then you're just teeth.
It'd be like, no, I've got a gap here. Come here, I'll eat you. Cool, fine gaps. James agrees. He says, I thought the art was really cool, especially some of the wide visuals. And Kevin, the artist, is saying he's a good storyteller, uses shadow really well. Excellent. So, are we maybe ready time to dive into our pages? Is this a good time?
Let's go ahead.
And this, look at this, guys. This is lovely. We're so professional the way. Really excellent. So I'll go first because I think my page is literally one of the first ones in the whole book. You mentioned the kind of the use of light and the reflection on people's faces, so this is why I went with this. Again, just like the sunset is going down, the kind of the color of the people around it and the shadows that are used. But two of the reasons I really picked this, I love the cityscape, but also like it's a vampire book. And the sun's going down. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so you obviously know it's going to get dark. Shit's going to get real. And I just think like the drama or something, this kind of presents itself, knowing that it is a vampire book. I just thought this was excellent. But now that I kind of picked this, I do actually think that some of the faces are a little bit ugly.
This is the page, and that middle panel there is the panel that made me think mind management. I think it's because they're so dead on, like so square and looking at you like perfectly straight. I think that's part of it.
It's weird because the two guys in the forefront, like they look okay. I think it's the other four characters look a bit like non-human. I don't know. It's just like strange. And you're right. Now that I've seen it, because I think I ignored this part because I was just too busy looking at the sunset, look at the cityscape, look at the shadows, like in the shot from the back of them where you don't see their ugly faces. That is mine, and I'm just going to do this randomly. I'll just go with Shane next.
Shane. Who doesn't love a good decapitation? This was the scene where he just picks up an axe and just chops his friend's head off because she's a vampire now, and I just thought it was just a great action scene. Sorry, his cousin, and it was just really good. I like an action scene. I like vampires fighting vampires, people fighting vampires, and I like decapitations and face decapitations, as we know from the last episode. But I just love the way the paneling's done. You've got the fight in, he gets her in the leg, she's down, still crawling towards him, and then you see just the shadow of his arms swinging and the blood. Like the middle panel at the bottom, I can't point to it because it's in the way. But yeah, he's completely in darkness, but you can still see the blood trail coming off the axe head. I thought that was pretty cool. And he steps up. I like it when a main character steps up. He's like, yes, I've got this. Time to get real.
I felt the emotion in this page too. Like I say, it's his cousin. He did not want to do this. The fact that he went for her leg, I'm assuming, was intentional at the start. I just want to stop you and slow you down. But then he had no choice but to go for the head. And he's absolutely gutted. Yeah, it was great. And just the way you described decapitation there, it kind of gave me the urge to use this.
Decapitation.
Decapitation. Yeah. Excellent. And to be fair, obviously there is gore, but it's not on the same level as last week. This guy didn't chop her up and put her in a suitcase and dump her in the water. But yeah.
Well, the vampire god is sitting on a throne of dead bodies.
Yeah, but that's okay. you expect some.
Oh, that's okay. Just don't chop your wife up and put her in a suitcase, but sit on a throne of corpses. That's fine.
Yeah, make believe. Like husband killing wives probably happens more often than I think. So, Scott, moving on to yours.
I really like this page purely because of the cool use of the panel dividing in the middle to make it look as if that was the door or the wall in between the vampire god king guy and the main characters. I thought it was really clever, and I just liked how you just see it, the vampire just slowly disintegrate in each panel as well. And then once that bit's done, you see the absolute mess they've got themselves into outside of the little room they're in, and you are thinking they're gonna die. Are they going to survive? And, well, we know they do. But that panel for me was like, I don't know. But yeah,
there was a point where
the panel there.
there was a point here too. I agree that I thought they weren't going to make it, but it was one of those ones where they're going to try, but maybe they just don't. But I agree. I had also screenshot this image because of that use of the divide as the door, and again with the use of steam and things like that, again, adds to like the realism, like the idea that that's this could potentially happen. But yeah, I mean, I said in our WhatsApp chat today that I think it was really hard to pick one page. And Scott just said no comment, and I was really worried. I was like, "Oh no, he is going to." I
try not to give my thoughts away before speaking to you on the show, so I'm just going to no comment everything. I think I'll just.
Excellent. We did get sent in some pages, folks. For these listening or watching live for future episodes, if you do read along, send us your page and tell us why you like it, and we will bring it up and talk about it. So. Kev sent this in. Did he give reasons?
He did. He said, I like the calmness of the establishing shot of the Empire State Building compared to the chaos that is actually going on in it.
Yeah. That's a very good thought.
Again, it's very reminiscent of Die Hard, isn't it? From a distance, you see the Nakatower building and you just see lights flashing on top. And then when it zooms in and we watch John McClane, he's having a firefight on the roof. But from a distance, it just looks like a blinky light.
Like,
and that's, very Die Hard.
But why not, like, zoom that little bit of the Empire State Building in to fill that white space? I don't understand. Why the white space?
Maybe it's supposed to make the building look small in comparison to what's happening inside.
Good reason. I like that, Shane. Well done. That's it. That's got to be it.
Yeah, but they could just, all right, maybe not zoom in then, but just fill it out with more skyline and stuff. I don't know. I was just like, why? Why the white space?
I kind of agree now that you've pointed it out, but now that Shane pointed that out, that makes sense. Look, genuinely, that does make sense. Yeah. If they made it that much bigger, it would feel part of the rest of the panels and wouldn't feel like so small and quiet on its own. But can we also address the streaker? Because earlier on in the issue, the two of the security guards get like a radio call. There's a streaker on one of the floors, and I didn't know where that was going. And all of a sudden, here he is running from the vampires, streaking.
Can I say I read this digitally? And if you zoom in, you can see his testes as well. They're hanging down. Just thought I'd throw the artist put it in there. I thought I'd mention it. He obviously wanted you to see them. Just zoom in, and there they are dangling there as he's running away.
Nice.
It's the attention to detail that we all appreciate on this show, isn't it? Connie also sent in a page.
It's a lovely page, and she hasn't sent in a reason. She's not here to give us one, but I really like this page, purely because this is where we get the dump of information of how this kind of vampire evolution of humans have come about. I really like that. And I don't know, the kind of the what are they called, the matrix dots, I love that in the background in the sky there. They're great.
They had quite a few of that through the book. See, I was confused by this page because they're obviously talking about hundreds or thousands of years in the past with this kind of tribe or cult, whatever. So is the top part meant to be New York? So many thousands of years ago. I'm just curious. Do you think that, because it looks like it's like the Grand Canyon or something, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's definitely in the past.
Yeah, and not like last week, but thousands of years in the past. Yeah. Oh, so here we go. We have quite a lot of comments. So bear with me, I don't get lost. Tottenham Gaming is in, saying hello. You cold there, Phil? I am cold. And actually, a question for the chat, and be careful how you answer. Do you call this a house coat or a dressing gown?
Dressing gown.
Just be careful.
Coat.
Nice. Let's see. James says he loves the bit on the left. Gruesome. I'm assuming it was one of the pages obviously we picked. So yeah. And they're just talking about the art, which I can't really assign what page they were talking about, but they're all really good. Tottenham Gaming's called it's a robe.
You tell he's a wrestling fan.
Oh yeah. No, it is not a robe. It is not a dressing gown. It is, in fact, a house coat, and it is cold. So yeah, that's the art, folks. Scott, you kind of touched on the kind of mythological aspect, which you really enjoyed. So that kind of brings us into the writing, I suppose. Do you want to kick that off then?
Well, I don't know what else to say, really. Like, I enjoyed the mythological section. I was a bit. The relationships were lost on me. The building for the relationships, not really much. I don't know. There was no Tom Taylor to it. You know what I mean? And with at the start, the guy with the bag full of money, trying to prove himself to that woman in the escalator, and then I felt like when he died later on, and it zooms in on that little bag of money, I was like, should a heartstring be pulled here or something? Shani, is that face to agree with me or to not agree
it was
with
like,
me?
but it's like, were we supposed to care and like him? Because he was very aggressive towards her when she turned him down. He turned the tables on her. Yeah, very uncomfortable to watch that interaction between those two.
And then with our main characters, the two, I can't remember the names. I'm so bad at this one. I can't remember anyone's names. But the only thing that stuck with me about their whole interaction throughout the whole story was just that little panel of them huddled together in the smoky room at the very end, waiting for the fire to go. But apart from that, I just didn't care for anyone really, which sucked, because this is about a group of friends.
Pun intended.
It is about a group of friends who, very fond of each other, wanted to get together before he went away to join the army, and they are close, but you kind of get that at the beginning, and then you get that at the end where they're doing that kind of memorial thing before they move away to Seattle. But in between, I think it was just too fast. I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
too many characters for you to care about any of them. You can
in
mention things about. Yeah, you could mention, oh, you're only doing this because your dad did this, and you're breaking up with me because of this. But there's just nothing there for you to grab onto. And fair enough, you've got 4 issues and you've got all these characters you want to introduce and kill off. That's great. You don't have to give them backstories and try to elevate them. They're just cannon fodder at the end of the day. As long as you just show that they're good people. You have to save the cat. Okay, so you get your characters to do a good thing, then you care about them, then you don't want them to die. So when they start dying one after another, even though you don't know anything about them, you care. So maybe the book starts and they're going into the Empire State Building and there's the homeless guy outside. It's the vampire, but we don't know that yet. And maybe they give him some money, or they each give him some cash as they walk past. That shows that they're nice people. So then when they're attacked by vampires, we care now. But you've made them all quite annoying and grating, so you don't really care.
I have a question about the homeless guy at the start. Like, obviously I feel like he is one of the main leader vampires, but at the very beginning he's a human, and then when the sun is setting, he's looking up at the Empire State Building, be like, that's my goal tonight, and then and then they have to kill them all with fire. I was like, why didn't they just wait for it to be daytime again and then kill him? I was under the assumption that as soon as it turned back to daytime, they turned back to human. That's what it felt like, because why was he human in the first place?
I feel like that was just
vampire.
Wasn't that just his disguise?
Is it a disguise, or is not?
Yeah, because he was in the underground. No, he was in the underground, so he was in the subway, so he wasn't in direct sunlight.
Yeah.
So I assumed they just had a face. He was waiting for his master to wake up.
He's a daywalker, Scott, according to James. Brilliant.
Silly me. I feel like I'm really poo-pooing on this. Like, there were aspects that I did enjoy, and for me, it was like, there was some. They made a lot of good use out of different parts and aspects of the building. Like James earlier on mentioned the lift. You know, that was a really cool scene when they had the vampires trying to grab the guy through the door, and then he cut the brake lines, and then they all get like ripped in half, and it was quite cool. It was a good way to use part of the building to kind of do a bit of an action scene with the vampires and kill them in an interesting way. And then after that, or before that, they had the bit where they're all outside on like the window washing bit, and they had to jump back and forth. And the snipers trying to kill the vampires there, and then that's when they discover that fire kills them, and they had the explosion, and they lose one of the main characters as well. So yeah, I was really impressed with how many different kind of scenarios and scenes and environments you can have in one tall building.
I thought those snipers, by the way, were really cool. They didn't wait for orders. They asked initially, it's like, "Well, stuff this. We're going to fire to save these guys." And obviously, they only saved three of them, I suppose, didn't they? But at that point, was it scaffolding or was it the window cleaning things? I just think if it was those window cleaning stands, whatever they call them, should they just like wind it down and go down the bottom? That's what I was thinking initially. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Or is it scaffolding?
They were probably powered though, and their building power was cut, so they wouldn't have been able to go up and down.
It's not just
fair. Yeah, I was just thinking, just kind of like with the pulley or something, get it down there. Yeah. I tend to agree with you on the characters in terms of, I don't think I cared much for either of them. I wanted the main guy to win the day. Again, forget his name myself. But it was hard to care for even his love for this girl, because even at the start, they introduced one name I do remember is Rachel, because his cousin said, "Is it because I think of Rachel?" So obviously he must have slept with her or something in the past. But like that was like the only thing you could argue that's adding some sort of layer. This guy obviously loves this girl, but cheated on her and is now going to Afghanistan to fight, and over there. And it wasn't until the dad got involved more. And they're on the walkie-talkie or on the radio, and he's like, "Save my daughter," blah, blah, blah. And then obviously he gets shot. It's not up until that point where I started to care for it then slightly. But again, I was like maybe issue 3, wasn't it? Towards the end of issue 3, I think. So yeah, it took quite a while to get there, but I didn't care for them. And even like Shane, you mentioned, it was actually a good idea, like have them give the homeless vampire a few dollars. But it would have been good if like the jock guy just says like, "No chance, I don't like this, stop begging for my money" or something, and then he dies first. We'll all be happy, because he I was glad he did die, I suppose, but he was just more irritating and annoying, like for no real reason. He was just there. There was no kind of build up for him, even as a friend for the main guy. If anyone in the chat remembers their names, let us know, because we completely forget and clearly didn't write this down. So yeah.
For me, the ending disappointed me, because I was expecting one of two things, and I would have been happier with either, the firefighters go in, they get to the room, and they're dead. They couldn't survive the heat. There was no breathable oxygen, and they died together. But they survived the vampires. But then that's a complete ending to the story, and it'd be a bit more realistic, because that pretty much was a hot box. They should not have survived. Or when we jump forward and we see them living their lives and they've survived, it would have been nice if maybe, I don't know, it turned to nighttime and one of them looked into the camera and had a red eye, or because they did both fight the king vampire, and it looked like he could have bitten any one of them. So it would have been a little bit more interesting than the ending we got, because I felt that ending was just really flat and dull. I don't think it was needed.
Yeah, I did enjoy the entire thing, but I think you're right. I think the ending could have been done 1,000 times better, I think.
And it made it out like there could be another little series, couldn't it? They're just building the building again, and there's another tomb, and they go, "Okay, well, start again then." And then
plus they went to a different city, and then in that city you seen a big tall skyscraper. So is that another one as well? Because there's not just one of these gods; there was multiple, wasn't there?
Yep, all buried high.
Yeah, And it never explained that, did it? Why they had to be high up. It just said a rite of passage. It didn't say any other reason other than that. So obviously, as the storyteller, they're telling you the story. You have to believe it, but like, give us something more to explain all that possibly. And because it's like the myth and legend part of it, we believe what they tell us. That's their story. But like, they could have done slightly more, because I don't like stuff that gets too heavy. This wasn't heavy enough, in my opinion, to have. I think we needed more of that mythological stuff other than just a quick explanation. I think I wanted slightly more. I don't know what, just slightly more.
This is very, very similar to a TV show called The Strain, which does have a tie-in comic, and that's about vampires in New York, and I think that does it a little bit better. I know it's had like multiple seasons to do it, but even like the first episode of that explains what they are and how they turn people, and because this was like he was feeding on them, and then they would rise again as his servants. But it's like, is that all it takes? One bite? Do you have to take all the blood? It wasn't explained. Because he like they get their necks broken. Some of them, do they come back? Like, is it just the ones that he feeds on?
See, you mentioned The Strain, and correct me if I'm wrong. Did that go back to World War II? Didn't it? So
yeah,
that's maybe a good way to do it for here. Just like show us a few panels or pages of 1,000 years ago, him killing people or whatever, destroying a village or whatever, and claiming all them lives, and what he does to them, how they rise again, type of thing. So maybe you're right. Do it that way to show us.
Like, the only historical flashback that we've got is the ancestors eating a dead guy, and that's it.
Yeah. And was the they put the vampire in the tomb, or was he entombed by man? Like, did people trap him? It wasn't clear, because he just wakes up, and then if they knew he was there this whole time, why didn't they just go in and get him?
It says the Hamatsa have been hiding his body ever since, somewhere in the native territories. So I think his followers, they make the effort to hide him. So I guess they all try to become skyscraper builders now.
But again, it doesn't explain why they're hiding him, because this just bring him back straight away.
Yeah, because if you're hiding him, and then just because someone finds him, but they then went there to worship him, they didn't go there to put him back in the tomb, did they? That was it was a little bit muddled. The message was just a little bit confusing.
I might lower my score right now, because I don't like plot holes. Things like that. Even I thought of this at the time. I just think you're right. You're like, why were they going to the building? Because he escaped, but he didn't escape. That he was disturbed, but like, he's there the whole time. Like, if I was like, so strict and as a vampire, and I wanted to kill people for my god, and I know he's in the building, I'm not going to ignore it for hundreds of years. I'm going to go and get him out. So yeah, very, very, very strange behavior. And maybe that could be another layer of the story, like you mentioned, if they were going back to put him back in the tomb because, for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe now's not the right time or something like this. Whatever, the stars aren't aligned or whatever the reason being. But yeah, they flocked to him, but they could have done it any time, any day.
Yeah. Or you could have quite easily have just said, the last generation entombed him, and now this generation have no idea who he is, but they're drawn to him because he's the master. So then when he walks up, he just walks to him and says, "Who are you?" And just have that one page of him just explaining who he is to him and telling him what his mission is now. Your mission is now to feed me. I'm your god. And then you get one cocky vampire who's like, "I don't have a god," and he just rips his head off. And he goes, "How about you? Do you have a god?" And he goes, "Yes, you're my god." Just so you just have a scene that just explains the rules.
Yeah, it's like every time we do this, and Shane describes better storylines than what we've just read, I feel like you should write comics, or at least just be like you like the idea guy. Let someone else do the writing. You just tell them what to write.
And it also shows how much was maybe not wrong, but how many issues there were with the story. If Shane is coming up with so many other different ways to rewrite certain parts or add bits to make things a bit more easily understandable for the readers, things like that. So there's not many times we do well, there's not many times Shane rewrites a book live on the show, so it's got to say something.
That's
It's
a
a
new
cool
feature
concept.
coming soon.
Shane rewrites books. It's a cool concept, and was it written purely because someone thought of the title Vampire State Building, or did someone write it and then go, what would be cool if we called this Vampire State Building? I think it was the first one.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like me and my quiz rounds, you start with the name of the round and then figure it out afterwards.
Yeah. So yeah, great concept. I think a few other things could have been thought out a bit here and there.
Yeah, I agree. James raises a good point. For all we know about vampires, did nobody consider garlic to kill the vampires? Were the supermarkets closed? Basic vampire survival move. Yeah. And that kind of touches back on what Shane was saying earlier on. We don't really know what this version of vampires is like. Is there a slayer out there somewhere? Do they not like garlic? Do they have day? It could be more they could have done to the kind of this species of vampires or their version of vampires.
Yeah.
Well, if this was originally a French book, I mean, then the vampires will love garlic, won't they?
Well. Oof.
That's controversial, isn't it?
One thing I do want to bring up, I think Shane touched on it earlier as well, is the spelling mistakes, guys. It's something I can't forgive, to be brutally honest. Ironically, I can't tell the time, and I get that. Okay, I scheduled this the wrong time, AM PM. But people do make mistakes. We know this. But my issue with it is, someone's got the notice. If you're the writer, okay, you're gonna have an editor. Someone who maybe even goes through the final print of the book. Or there's people. Exactly. People after you should pick these things up. So take a few things, and maybe this might be a translation thing again, because there are two writers, Angie or Ange or whatever it was pronounced, and Patrick Renault. They all sound French, so maybe there was no English name there to kind of translate it type of thing. So there was one. I found a name. His cousin is called Ashley, because the panel I took a picture of, he goes, Ashley. Instead of saying was right, Ashley as right. And I just think, no, stop that, please. That's, yeah.
I've got one here. This is halfway through issue 3, and they're like, the flamethrowers didn't work, and they say, damn it, ready phase 2, go, go, go. And then the other guy just goes, what phase 2? not what is or what,
And there are others. Yeah, so at one point, one of the main detective guy was handcuffing the father. He's like, I'm sorry, Dent, but we might only have once chance to stop them.
I didn't notice that one.
Yeah. And what was the other one? Whenever he was reading on his daughter, he's like, the place is going to burn. Is going to... Again, these are things maybe lost in translation. I get that. But I just think at some point, somewhere in the process,
if all of us can pick this up.
Yeah, you have an editor / proofreader in the States where you're going to release the book.
And as I said before, people make mistakes. I made mistakes with this schedule, but it took the three of us plus Shane's friend to realise that it was the wrong time. And we got there in the end, and that was only within a day. So, they should be picked up, in my opinion.
Well, you've got the letterer and the editor and the writer and the translator. So there's 4 people between print and concept. That's a lot of people to not notice these things.
And to be fair, they're not the worst things in the world. They're just annoying. You know what they're saying. You can see past it. It just annoys me. It's a pet peeve. I think I have.
It's that kind of thing which just takes you out for a little bit. You're in the story. You're in the mindset. You're there, and you see a spelling mistake, and you go, "Oh, okay, I'm out. Okay, let's go back in." That's how it feels. It just jars you with the fluidity of the story, I think.
Yeah. It's a shame though, because like I say, I had a good time reading this book, and the only things that did take me out of the story were those grammatical errors. But human errors, it's fine. But just do better, please. Ablaze comics. Before we kind of wrap things up, do you guys have anything to bring up or raise? Any questions?
Well, one little thing. When he found the blueprints on the dad's computer in the office, and then looks at it and he goes, "Yeah, cool, this is all good." And then later on in the last issue, where they're told to go to the 75th floor, and he looks at the blueprints and he goes, "Oh yeah, I wondered what that was." I wish he just read it better in the first issue and then just went straight there. I was like, oh, okay, but yeah.
Yeah, building full of vampires. I'll take my time to read this blueprint.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's that as well. But yeah, that was it, really.
Shane, anything else to add?
Just one thing. It just felt really out of place because it's an American, it's set in New York, and they call the first homeless vampire that comes running in, they call him a tramp. And I was like, that's an English word. Like, the Americans don't say tramp. I was like,
they do?
I've not heard Americans say tramp.
To be fair, it wouldn't be that common, I don't think.
No.
Right.
It's they say homeless and vagrant, and they don't say tramp. I was like, what? That's because tramp over there is like we have, yeah. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, they have a different meaning for the word trap, I think. But guys, that's all we have to talk about, really. I mean, this was a kind of short and sweet issue. There's not a lot of stuff really to talk about. It was just an action-packed story. So, any guys in the chat, and a few of you have commented, if you have read along, please present your scores. We will count them, collate them, add them to ours, and work out the average, and then we will find out where this book comes on the leaderboard for the first time in season 3. Can you believe it? So yeah, this is your chance, guys. Get your scores in. And we will start with Scott this time round. Your final thoughts and scores, please.
Okay, well, my final thoughts and scores on this book is it was a decent read, a good start for Horror Month, I think. But I'm hoping we get a bit better. I think the fact that I can't remember any of the names and wasn't really bothered about many of the relationships says a lot. Yeah, I just wasn't really into it for me. I didn't feel that connection with any of the characters. The fact that we've raised a couple little plot holes, and the fact that a few things could be written a bit better, it kind of doesn't bode well for it either. But I did really enjoy the action parts, and some of the bits you see in the art, like the Vampire King sitting on the throne of dead bodies, and the environments and the skylines and all this are absolutely stunning. And I'm really surprised Phil, you didn't mention about the rain, the helicopters in the rain. But yeah, stuff like that. Like, it all looked amazing, environmentally, and all the details in the little rooms and stuff like that as well. But it was just the faces that kind of put me off. But yeah, loved the action, loved most of the art. Yeah, hit and miss and a few other bits. It's going to be a 6 for me.
Nice. To be fair, with the rain, I didn't mention because I actually thought it was quite ugly. It's quite messy.
It looked like static.
Yeah, it didn't look like the rain that I'm used to in comic books. Not my.
You're a rain snob now.
Yeah. Oh, times are tough. That's great. 6 from Scott. Some scores are coming in, guys. Keep them coming. Shane?
I had fun. I like a nice compact trade. You told me it was a trade. I picked it up. I read it start, middle, and end. That's what I look for in a trade, and I got exactly what I was offered, what I was told I was getting. And it's vampires in the State Building, in the Empire State Building, running amok. It's Die Hard with vampires. Who doesn't want to see that movie? I would watch this movie. They need to make a movie of this. This is perfect for a movie, or like maybe a mini series on Netflix or something, 4 or 6 episodes. It'd be great. I'm not a massive fan of the art, but I liked it. It didn't put me off. The faces aren't great, but everything else was. The design of the main vampire, like all mouths and teeth everywhere, a great visual for the king of vampires. Action scenes, yeah, fine. But the best part was all the vampires setting on fire at the end, because the sprinkler system is just raining down petrol onto them and they just get covered. It's fantastic. I just wanted a little bit more from the ending. I wanted either that kick of them not surviving so that it really gets you and you're like, they saved everyone, because he starts the fire at the end with his last ounce of energy before he tries to get away from the king vampire. It would have been a nice ending to the book. Sad, but I mean, like a nice closure, or have them be vampires at the end, kicking off volume 2. But it is what it is. It's a fun read. It's 4 issues. It takes 20 minutes. Cup of tea and a book, you're done. Great read for Halloween. I'm going to give this a 7 because I had fun. It's not perfect, but it's fun, gory, and perfect for Halloween.
How can you read that whole thing in 20 minutes?
Only 4 issues.
Yeah, but
Before I done on 25.
it took like 2 hours.
So, we have some scores in, guys. Just before I give mine, just your final reminder to get them in. And I'll try and keep it short and sweet. But I did write some stuff beforehand about my final thoughts and scores. But this discussion's maybe made me think differently about the score, I think. Because of those plot holes and things like that, which now that we discussed them, Shane's ideas sound better for me. And that's a shame. I know that, yeah, but it's just like, I don't mean it in a bad way, Shane. Your ideas are fantastic. It's just, these guys are professional comic book artists. They should be better. They should be the best, and they weren't. I did enjoy it. I had fun. We mentioned Die Hard with vampires. That's the kind of level of fun I had with it, and everyone loves Die Hard. It's a good Christmas movie. Have to get that in there. It is Christmas, and this is obviously a good Halloween spooky story, I suppose. I'm not burnt out with vampires. I quite like vampires in books because they're not too heavy. Like, there was a bit of mythological, yeah, in this, but it wasn't heavy, And again, compared to last week with Hotel, it's not psychological horror. It's action horror, as I would call it. And as Shane's phrase, start, middle, and the end. Fantastic. I enjoyed it. Had fun. Like I say, it's not visceral, it's no deep meaning, but the fact that we don't remember the characters' names, they didn't do very well building the relationships and the major plot holes and the spell mistakes. I've lowered my score. I was actually a 7.5 initially, but I've went down to 6.5 because I feel a bit disappointed now. Now we've discussed it and you've pointed things out to me, but at the time reading this, when this was my first read, I almost saw past all that, So yeah, that's my score. We have, I believe, 5 scores in. I know Scott usually check. That's correct. Yeah. So Kevin is cheesy fun 7.5. James was okay, but didn't really grip me. Wanted to care more for the character, so it's a 4 for me. James from This Week in Metropolis, I'll give it a 7, as it wasn't perfect, but it did have a real movie feel to it, and the art was great. Art was splendid.
There is one extra one. Sorry.
Okay. Liam, who is a horror fan, so I will 100% take what he says as correct. The only saving grace for me was the art. It was good, with some really good examples of storytelling through the art. Everything else was beyond poor, unfortunately. I wouldn't have been surprised if you told me an AI had written this, as a lot of it felt very unnatural. And he's given it a 3.5.
3.5.
And Sonic's Comics, I found this as an okay story. I like the concept of it. The art was cool in places, but not the best we've seen. It's a 6.5 from him. And we did get a score from Connie. Isn't that correct?
Mm-hmm.
She did leave notes. Just bear with me. Yeah. So Connie says, 6.5 from her. Decent story, but started to fall a little flag towards the end for me. Began to get a little, all right, let's wrap this up. Guys, I'm not with the kids, this lingo that the kids use these days. All right, let's wrap this up. The art was good. Balanced amount of gory. The story was good in regards to how fast-paced it was. Decent Halloween-y read. Yeah, excellent. 6.5 from Connie. So, with her 6.5, and I've lost track of whose other 6.5s we have. I have the scores here. 6.5, 3.5, 7, 4, and a 7.5 from the herd. That gives them an average of 5.8. Do you concur? And with that, with Scott 6, Mike 6.5, and Shane 7, that gives us an average overall of 6.3. Does that sound good, Scott? Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So 6.3 for Vampire State Building. I wonder where
does it come on the leaderboard?
On the leaderboard. And we do have a new leaderboard, don't we, for this week?
Yep.
Or this season. And we'll just look at it because it looks nice and cute. And it's Halloween, so why not?
Oh, Phil's only gone and taken the top spot again.
Oh, classic Phil.
Well, this happened last year in Halloween month, and I kept the top spot for the most part of the year. And yeah, but I mean, I think it's a good start, in terms of because Halloween's a tough, even though there are loads of horror stories, I think everyone has different versions of the horror stories that they actually like. And yeah, that's where we're at. So coming up for next week's read, let's see what we're doing, shall we?
Okie doke.
Oof. Scott, what do we have coming up for next
Right,
week?
so we are actually going to start Horror Month now with my pick. It is called The Autumnal from Vault Comics. It was out in 2020. We will be reading the entire 8 issues, and it's written by Daniel Kraus and the art by Chris Sheehan as well. So yeah, I think Liam would be a bit happier with this story as well.
That last panel was sick, with pulling the spine or whatever it was out of his mouth.
I think it was like trees or something.
Oh dear. Well, looking forward to that. That's next week's show, of course. But we did mention on our roundup show that we're adding a few other features videos on this channel, and we have one come up tomorrow, and it's the first one of Kev's draw along, and he shows us how to draw a zombie.
Awesome.
So cool.
Get your pencils and paper and get on that, because he does it on Instagram, and he's really cool with the stuff he does. He's done superheroes and things in the past. So the zombie for Halloween theme month, of course, that is coming. It's tomorrow, I believe, Scott. Is it 7 p.m?
Tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Excellent. So
everyone go, show him some love, give him the support that he rightfully deserves. It'll be a laugh, and send him the pictures that you draw if you do copy along. It'll be brilliant.
Yes. And tag us, because I'd love to see those as well. Tag the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club on Instagram.
Because we're all nosy buggers. So, folks, this has been Vampire State Building. This has been episode 1. We're in our 3rd year. It's Halloween month. There's more to come. There's one thing left to do. Let's get your waves out. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Love you.